Hi guys, it's Amy with Aim to Plan, and today I am back with a planner therapy video. This one all about constructing a timeline of loss. So one of the things that will be a little bit different in the next few videos is that right now I'm teaching a class on crisis, trauma, and loss, and I'm really wanting to incorporate some of the things that I'm teaching in my class into the planner therapy series. So we're going to start off with one of the first things that I am talking about, which is the idea of loss. And so this video will be pretty straightforward. What I'm going to do is kind of explain the idea of loss while you see me kind of develop my own personal timeline of loss. Just to kind of start off with, what you're going to do to start off with, and you can use any kind of paper, but what I'm going to do is basically just draw a line down the middle. And right here is the point of birth. And then we're going to put like ages across here. So the first one for me is going to be 6 years old, and you'll see me just kind of develop this across time. But as I do this, I wanted to be able to just kind of show you this part and like how you do this. What you're going to be doing is basically putting time points across this timeline and going downwards. You're going to be drawing lines to talk about the moments of loss or transition that you have. And so just draw lines. The longer the line, the more impactful that loss was to you. And so that is kind of the first step here, what happens on the bottom half of this timeline. On the top half, and you'll see me kind of do these two sides simultaneously. On the top half, what you're going to be doing is constructing a timeline of blessings. What you're going to be doing here is acknowledging maybe some of the positives that came out of a transition or a loss, or maybe just acknowledging like other moments, maybe moments that were not necessarily things that you would classify as loss, but maybe were transition points for you. And so you're going to be basically writing positives on the top side and negatives on the bottom side. So as I go through this, one of the very first things that I'll ask you to do is basically put your first memory, and that for me occurred at 6 years old. And then after that, just start listening major transitions, major losses, major blessings that you've had across time. So one of the things, as we see with this timeline, is that a lot of times when people see loss, they really don't think of loss as we really see loss as like just death, and that's not actually true. We do see that death is a component of what happens in people's lives. Obviously, death is something that occurs and is obviously an overt loss. But we also see that a lot of times we don't really pay attention or like give as much credence to those moments where we're just transitioning out of something. And we don't necessarily identify that as a loss, even though in the work that I do, clinical work that I do, those are moments that can be lost just as much as the death of someone is a loss. Really, when we think about loss, you want it to be something where it is broader than death, and not necessarily just death, but also, again, as I've already mentioned multiple times, the transition periods that you go through. So as we make the timeline, just make sure that you label these moments, and again, like draw the moments that are like most impactful and make the lines longer, and just move through your timeline. Now, I again will be doing this simultaneously. Now, why is this important? The main reason this is important is that when we talk about loss, one of the things that a lot of people kind of miss in the process is that we don't actually recognize loss as loss. A lot of times we think of only death, as I've already mentioned, and we don't really think of these other transition periods as losses. And so if we don't ever identify it or label it as a loss, then we don't ever do the work that we need to process it. So the first step that I encourage my clients to do, and I'm encouraging you to do, is to reconsider, reimagine these events as maybe events where you lost something. It could be loss of identity, it could be loss of security, it could be loss of something that's abstract or something tangible. It could be something that is a loss of a material item that is small to you. It doesn't have to be something that's a major loss like a death. It could be a minor thing as well. As long as it was important to you and made an impact on you, these are the things that I'm wanting you to note down. So I'm saying major transitions and major moments, but that's going to be very personal to you. So write down these things and just kind of think about like the positives and the negatives for it. And by being able to kind of construct this timeline, you'll at least be able to go through and start the process of thinking about whether you've actually dealt with the grief that you might have felt for these moments. So as I'm going through this, you can see that one of my examples here is going away to college. Going away to college was a very positive experience for me, but it also was just something that was very negative, or like it wasn't negative. It was just a loss for me. Like you lose that sense of like what childhood is like, and obviously it was something that I dealt with, but it could be something where, you have someone in your life or you yourself are dealing with it and you haven't actually processed it or resolved that issue. So these are moments that as a society we don't necessarily classify as loss, but these are the same kinds of experiences in a minor way. I'm not equating it to death, but certainly we experience some of the same emotions. Think of our transitions as moments where we're gaining something and losing something, then I think you can kind of see where I'm going with this activity. And so, again, the whole process here is to be able to acknowledge both the positive and the negative side of transitions. So, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to my channel. And until the next video, bye guys.